now. All right. Welcome. My name is Claire Hoover. I am the administrator of undergraduate recruitment and retention for the College of Education and Human Development at BGSU. And basically all that means is that I am your point person if you have any questions about any of the programs within the College of Education and Human Development. Tonight's info session is regarding our physical education, health education program. And I've brought with me Jeff Meek to talk about the program. So without further ado, I'm just going to pass it on to him to talk about the program.
Thank you, Claire. Welcome, Gage, and others. This is a session about physical education, health education. 2 licenses, 1 degree. So that means that you complete this degree, you get 2 teaching licenses in the state of Ohio, and probably most other states in the union as well. So let's get going on introduce the program. So a little bit about me. Well, there's actually a lot about me on this slide. So you can see I have a varied physical education and physical activity background. I'm English and actually I'm an American citizen as well. This is my 21st year in Bowling Green. I was a phys ed teacher for 5 years in 2 inner city schools in England, which is quite interesting. I worked at a previous university for 11 years, and I have a PhD in education. There's my little graduation photo. I look like Robin Hood. That's what everyone tells me anyway. So I was a all-state representative in a number of sports. At high school, I was soccer and cricket. And then as a senior, which means as an adult, I played field hockey at state level and in the NHL, which is actually the National Hockey League in England. In England, it's hockey is field hockey and ice hockey and it's the reverse here. Okay, the picture in the middle is me with Dave Waddle, who won the gold medal at the 1972 Olympics, and he's an alumni. And that was the 40th anniversary of him winning, and I did the introduction, so that's what I have to say. Okay, that's enough about me. Let's have a look at the program. So obviously, one of our aims is to prepare the best and most effective teacher candidates. That would be you as an undergraduate, and in both areas. The program is aligned to various accrediting agencies. You can see them here. I'm not going to read them out. Probably the most important one is the national standards, national accreditation processes, which we comply with as and when we need to, which is about once every 7 years. Why PEHE? Well, both subjects are taught in schools. Health is traditionally taught in middle and high school. Phys ed is taught throughout from elementary. As you can see in the picture, that's an elementary school in Bowling Green. One of our students a few years ago teaching a class in the methods, in his methods class. And what we really become are advocates, leaders for lifelong health enhancing levels of physical activity. And that's an overarching goal of the national standards for physical education and probably health education too. And for a lot of kids, it's the favorite subject in school. One, because they're out of the classroom, their teachers are pestering them, and they get a bit of activity in and learn something along the way. Our program is basically we can get you through in 4 years. That's a guarantee, as long as you do what we tell you to do. And that's really telling you is really advising. And advising happens at 2 levels. You get an academic advisor in the college. That's slightly changed, but it's basically the same thing now. And you get a program advisor in years 3 and 4, junior and senior, and I'm one of those program advisors. And there's a sample of a 4-year plan. It fits maybe if you get a little bit out of whack, you can take a summer class or extend to 18 hours where that's possible. And there's flexibility. The flexibility is mostly in classes that are outside the major. So some of the Health ed classes are outside the major, but the phys ed ones, a lot of them are sort of prerequisites to each other, so they have to be taken in order, and we will make sure, without a shadow of a doubt, that you get them in the right order, so you're able to finish it at the appropriate time. These are some of the areas that we deal with, obviously being phys ed and health ed, the phys ed side. I teach in the phys ed side. One of my colleagues teaches a lot of the health ed courses, and there's one other faculty member who teaches with me in physical education. We have Foundations of Human Movement. These are some of the classes where you, these are your sort of core content classes. Structural and functional basis is anatomy, so you need to know the body reasonably well. Motor learning and development is fundamental to pretty much any physical activity you do. And then biomechanics is the sort of science of, in this case, you can see the golf swing, and that there's some biomechanical principles going on in there, one of which is torque, and you can see that in the middle one with the golf club in a very odd position, and angular momentum. That's another one. We also do quite a lot of content knowledge, which is what we call movement performance. Here you learn two things. You learn to perform the activities. You also learn to teach the activities. And you can see we have an outdoor leisure pursuits class. Invasion games is things like basketball, football, soccer, field hockey, all those sorts of games where you invade others' territory. Court and field games. Court is generally the badminton, tennis, pickleball. You can see the pickleball champs there in that class. Volleyball would be one of those. Field games is essentially baseball and softball, but there are a few other elements to that. You will do educational gymnastics and dance. You'll do that with me, and that is obviously it's a very good class because I teach it, but it's also one where I'm very aware that you come into the program with very little gymnastics and dance experience, and we get you to a point where you could teach a unit, which is normally like a 4-lesson, 5-lesson unit of those at elementary level, without doubt, maybe higher if you're more into it. And then some of the others, fitness and wellness is our version of it's taken over from physiology, and we basically we prepare you to be able to teach those two subjects in the school setting, and that I think is very different from how you would have traditionally done it in physiology, which is very much more scientifically based. The health ed curriculum, we have a whole slew of numbers here. The best thing is to look at the titles of them. Obviously, we have intro classes. That F&N, which is food and nutrition, is actually a double whammy in terms of the system. You have to do general ed classes. At Bowling Green, they're called the BG perspective. That is one of those classes. So it fits in I think the science BGB electives, but it's also a course in health ed. So that's we'll call it a double hitter. So it hits two places on your course curriculum. So that's a good one on that basis. And there's a few of those, and we make sure that you are aware of that, so you don't take too many science classes when you don't need to. And it has a lab, and that's good for the lab portion of that requirement as well. So all of the elements in here are things that you will be teaching at school. So drug use and abuse, sexuality, health issues, all elements that are quite fundamental to a health ed curriculum in schools, and you will be teaching those. So we're preparing you through content knowledge is really what you have to teach. And the other thing we then do is what we call methods here, but basically it's professional knowledge, if you like, and that's pedagogy. Pedagogy is the science of teaching. And this is quite a long list of those, but there's some of these are very specific to pedagogy. Some of them are specific to specific groups. So pedagogy, the intro class covers coaching, which is a minor that you could take at the same time. You'll see that on another slide. Instructional Strategies is one of our methods classes. Adapted is something I teach, which is with kids with special needs, with disabilities. The pictures there are at the bottom of my summer camp and program that I run. We have kids coming in on Wednesday afternoons after school to work with our students in that class. So that's quite a fun interactive process with children. And so all of these courses are to prepare you and develop you as a teacher, give you a broad understanding of some of those issues. Evaluation is very important. Assessment is sort of the foundation of a lot of things that you do in school. I mean, you're tested quite a lot, in my mind, through certainly your high school. My son's a freshman, and I'm like, he's having tests nearly every day, which seems a bit much. Okay, so that the field experiences. We will guarantee that you'll meet children in a classroom setting, off campus, pretty much at every level. Obviously, COVID has taken a hit on these has hit these courses a little bit, but we prior to COVID, you'd get to go into schools in the intro class. If it's not in schools, if you're doing the coaching learning, you do that with coaching developmental league soccer. 3120 is instructional strategies. That's you go in for a short field experience in the school. The methods classes, elementary, EC, MC is elementary and middle childhood. Don't ask me why middle childhood is in both, but it is. It depends. Some middle schools have 5th grade, some have 6th grade. There's all sorts of systems, and so we cover that sort of overlap is quite useful in some ways. And then 4720 is actually young adults, so that's basically high school. All right, and then we have a health methods practicum where you're in school pretty much every day of the week. And that's normally in your senior year, first semester of senior year, and then the bottom one there is student teaching, which is a 14-week practicum. Okay, so this is really we call it the Capstone Experience. Everything that we do, all the courses that you've seen up to this point, develop you to a point where you're ready to be in schools for 7 weeks. And you've probably had student teachers in your schools, potentially. You probably don't realize that they're there all day for 14 weeks, maybe just 7 in your school. But that's quite an intensive process, and it really is wonderful. It's like job experience. A number of our students get jobs either in the school district that they worked in, maybe not the school they were in, but it's quite a good sort of advertisement of your ability to teach. The teacher sees you, other professionals in the school see you, the principal sees you, and that helps you. If they can't offer you a job directly, they would be very supportive of you getting one, and would write a reference accordingly. So that process is sort of time honored. Or any teacher that you has had a student teaching experience. These days, we have to get you ready for what's called OEE, which is the Ohio Assessment of Educators. You have to take some exams, content knowledge exams of those, so that the state of Ohio feels that you are adequately prepared to teach in one of the schools that the state basically operate. And NTPA is a assessment that occurs during student teaching, and those we prepare you for. Those are licensure requirements now. So you have to complete those. It sounds sort of scary, but you're becoming a professional. Professionals have those sorts of exams. The famous one is the bar exam lawyers take, and all sorts of groups, realtors, all sorts of professionals have those sorts of licensure requirements, and those are normally exams. We have some quite good teaching facilities. EPLA, which is that building you see at the top. This is pictures taken from the Student Union looking across a quadrangle. And we're in that building. We're on the sort of left-hand side by the tower. My office is just sort of underneath that tower, basically. In the middle there, the low flat part, the back end of that is the gym that you can see in the bottom. So that's a big space. And we have the pictures you see. The left-hand one is half of the space that is principally ours. That's the left-hand side. In the corner, there's a little door that goes through to a seminar room. You can see on the right there. Go up that ramp on the right-hand side. So what we often do with our courses is we have a lecture, and in the classroom, and then the lab. We go into the gym, and we do the activities in that sort of setting. Okay, the picture in the middle is actually there's partition doors which are opened, and it's a very big space. So that's a dedicated gym space that we have in the center of campus. So that's we're very sort of proud and lucky to have that. We also use facilities. Left-hand side. This is the field house. It's called. It's on the edge of campus. It's partially owned by us as a teaching facility. Athletics oversees it now, and the turf room is obviously where football do their spring training. We actually have access to that in the fall mostly, and we do the invasion class, the games classes done there. You can see there's some soccer lines, and that's a turf. That's a wonderful space. And then next door is the track room, and that has the track around the outside and the gym floor in the middle. We can put those curtains down and partition it in various ways. So that's that space. We also use the Student Rec Center, not so much these days, but that's available to us. We just have to organize it if we need to, but we don't tend to go down there as much as we used to in the good old days. All right, so but certainly those two facilities are part of our space. Just to help you, I am the program coordinator. I deal with admissions. That's why I'm talking to you right now. Recruitment, it's called. But so I do a survey with our incoming freshmen. I call it YBG. Why did you come to BG? And these are some of the things that have been said. Some of them are sort of what you'd expect. Some are sort of a bit random. There we are. So academic support. Yeah, we support you very well. You're in our program. We want you to graduate. We're going to help you every which way we can. Some see it as close to home. Some see it as far enough away from home that your parents can't drop in on you at a moment's notice. They have to give you some warning because they're going to travel 2 hours or whatever. Okay. People visit and like the campus. If you haven't visited, I would strongly recommend at some point you do. Try and do it on a warm, nice, sunny day though, because walking around it can be cold. The campus is a very safe place. There's a really good sense of we're friendly, and there's a good campus environment. The student unions probably been revamped for 10 years, but it's a nice space. But a lot of our halls of residence are really good too. We have a good educational reputation. It's one of the top schools for education in Ohio. It's actually the biggest school for education in Ohio. We have more majors than even Ohio State. We don't beat them at very many things like football, but we can beat them at being very good at education. My PE teacher recommended it. It's often one of the reasons why people come. It wasn't in New York. It was a random one from someone from New York. Surprising, not surprising. And the color orange, which I still haven't quite worked out what that one was. And as it was an anonymous sheet, I couldn't tell you who it was either. Ultimately, you want a job. So our graduating class from 2021, who just finished this last May, they all got jobs. 2 of them got jobs in South Carolina, Spartanburg. I know that because I wrote references for them. They actually teach in the same school, which is remarkable. Even more remarkable is they went to the same school. They went to Clay High School in Oregon. both of them, not in the same year, but they're teaching together. There's actually a little, the TV station down in Spartanburg did a little section, news segment on them, and I've seen it. Then they did a very good job presenting themselves. We have someone in Chicago, in inner city Chicago, which is pretty brave and something that he wanted to do. We also have people in Cleveland and Toledo, and a number of them around this area. So, obviously you get a license, a higher license, so it's easier to get a job in Ohio. I encourage you not to go back to your own high school, not straight out of college. If that's something that you want to do it, when you're a bit more mature and have sort of cut your teeth in another school, and then you can go back and the teachers don't remember you as some, senior or wherever they are, So but I can't stop you doing that. I just think you grow more if you go somewhere else where you walk in the door and you're a teacher and everyone treats you as a teacher from the get-go. We do have a coaching minor. That obviously helps. I'm not totally convinced that you need it, given the strength of our PEHE program. You get a very good lot of skills in terms of teaching and able to teach. And coaching is really teaching. I mean, John Wooden, one of the greatest basketball coaches at UCLA, always said, people said he was a great teacher, and he was. And I think coaches have to be like that. So teaching and coaching sort of go together. But there is a coaching minor that you can take that obviously increases your job prospects. Generally, you would do that in the sport that you were most proficient at. But a lot of schools, if you're say you were a football player, you won't become the head coach straight away, but you could become a position coach. And if you ran track, you almost certainly would be able to coach track as well. So those sorts of things happen, and that adds to your marketability in terms of job prospects. We do in the senior seminar, which goes on in your final semester with student teaching, bring principals in and ask them they interview you and give you tips about how to improve your interview technique to help you get a job. And that's quite we ask you to, obviously we want the seniors to prepare for it. They sort of do, but they still get some really good pointers about things that the principal, you did well, but I wouldn't employ you because, you didn't quite do it like this. So therefore you need to, step up in this area or whatever. And that's a really good, that helps people tremendously. And we have a good reputation nationwide. And we have, I've known of teachers in Louisville, Nashville. We had one in Las Vegas, although they came back. A lot go to the Carolinas. Some people want to get out of the cold weather for some weird reason, but they do. And so, we've had people all over. We have a school district in Texas. I want to say Abilene, I think that's the name of it. And they actually have our student teachers go down there. And then they, a number of them stay. So that's quite an interesting one. We have the same sort of arrangement with Cleveland City Schools and with an area near Spartanburg in South Carolina too, who really think very highly of our students. Okay, so we position you well to get a job and do a good job at it. Okay, this is my name and email address. If you have any questions, you can either ask them now or you can email me later. If you want to arrange a visit on campus, you can do it through admissions. You have the choice to go on a group trip around the campus, or you can do an individualized one. And that means you would meet with me. I would like you to see, the other facilities too, and that's part of it. That, as they say, is that. So hopefully that helped you a little bit with how we set it up. And I'm done. So Claire, you can step in at this point.
Perfect. So if you do have any questions, there is the chat function. I've been posting links to the check sheet, so the list of the required classes for the physical education, health education program. I also posted a link to the coaching minor if you wanted to see some of the classes that are required for that as well. So you can either post their questions there if you have any, or if you want to just unmute, that's fine too. But I did have one question for you. So I really push students to join at least one, ideally 2 student organizations within their first year on campus. Are there any student organizations that are typical or that you would recommend for somebody going into physical education, health education?
We don't actually have one directly. We used to have one years ago, Kinesiology Club, but that sort of folded. We've never really taken that on board, but there are numerous clubs on organizations on campus. There are, sporting ones where you can be into club. There's a club soccer, club hockey, even club. One of our juniors just went to Phoenix for the club tennis team and the nationals. So those sorts of things are quite good. There are other groups. I'm actually the advisor for the club field hockey, which is the girls' sport here. So those sorts of things exist. There are lots of other organizations across. I can't think. One of them, Rally Cap, is one that I'm not involved with, but I know of, which is working with kids with disabilities on I think it's a Sunday afternoon. They come into and they use our gym. So there's a whole slew of those opportunities. The wonderful thing about that quad that you saw, with the Epler in it, is that I think early in the August, early September, they have a big event where all the organizations on campus have a table and you walk around. They offer you pens and all sorts of things, bribe you to go. But that's actually a really good way of it's the college picnic, I think it's called, or something like that. And it's so they provide food, the university provides burgers and food, and you can go around to see, and pretty much all the campus organizations are there. And then there's probably, I don't know, probably 150 tables of different organizations there. And, so there's plenty of things on campus for you to do. I personally would look at, if you want to be, coaching, it's not so easy you'd need to be a volunteer coach probably initially. Schools around this area are crying out for volunteer coaches. So that's a good way of getting into, and getting your sort of job prospects long-term in terms of as a teacher, but also, you volunteer probably the second year they're able to give you, maybe able to have you as an assistant coach or whatever. So those sorts of things are very possible.
Yes, the Campus Fest, that's the one that's typically like first week of September with all the student organizations.
Yeah.
BG has I think over 400 student organizations. So there's something for you. So definitely join at least to one that's kind of more centered around your major. So we have some education organizations, but also something just for fun. Intramural sports, club sports are really great ways to be involved as well. So the thing to keep in mind, sorry, my cat is joining us. Couple things to keep in mind is everybody that's in your program is taking the same classes as you. So it's really important to look for other ways to kind of stand out, and doing things like joining a student organization, being a volunteer coach, things like that will really help you stand out on a resume. On top of having the BG education really helps as well. But anything that you can do a little bit extra is really going to be good for your experience at BG, but also in terms of finding a job down the line, it just stands out a little bit more. I don't see any other questions. Gage, Joe, do either of you have any questions before we close up today? I don't see anything coming in, but I want to just make sure. Okay, well, I want to let you know that I will be sending a follow-up email to both of you, likely tomorrow, if not the next day. Will include a recording of this, but I'll also include all of the links that I shared here. And then you'll have my email. I'll copy Dr. Meek on the email, so you'll have his contact information. And then feel free to reach out to either of us if you have any questions within the whole, recruitment process about BG, about your program, and we will definitely get those questions answered for you. Dr. Meek, is there anything else you'd like to add before we wrap up?
No, I think we've covered everything I want to say.
Perfect. Well, great. I hope the two of you have a great night. Thank you for joining us today. I know this is probably during dinner time, and we will get in contact with you soon via email. So have a good night and thank you.
Thank you, both of you. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.